Well, good afternoon, everyone. From a mid to late December, almost the real holiday season kicking in. It is Tuesday, December 19th, 2017, for a week and a half more. I am Kim Infante, your host of Advancement Live, and today I was just chatting with my guests on this episode. It is all fun, all Insta, total brain dump, things that we've done with Instagram and things that we're looking forward to as Instagram announces a whole bunch of new changes between the stories archive, stories highlights, all of the ability to follow hashtags now. I did a search on Twitter for folks who were in higher ed talking about Instagram, and these three guests showed up loud and proud for their love of Instagram. So I will introduce them to you in just a little bit, but as many of you know from watching for hopefully many episodes, Advancement Live is part of the Higher Ed Live network. Our episodes offer you, there is my reminder that Advancement Live is starting. Excellent. It's on, guys. Our episodes offer you direct access to the best and brightest minds in education, and you can be part of our live broadcast by sharing your knowledge. And I think this is really important today, especially as we do just really a sharing of what's worked for us, maybe some things that have flopped, things that have really soared on Instagram, for you to share your own success. So the hashtag to use is hashtag Higher Ed Live. And if there's anything that you have a question for Aaron or Ellen or Tim, our guests today, or if you want to pipe in and share something that you've tried, we definitely want you to do that using that Higher Ed Live hashtag. All of our episodes are free. They are easy to access in the video archives. You can see those at higheredlive.com, or you can take Higher Ed Live with you on the go in podcast format. Just subscribe to our podcast and you can listen to these episodes anytime. And Higher Ed Live is produced by M. Stoner, a digital-first agency committed to tailored solutions that drive real results. If you are a newsletter subscriber, we thank you for that. If you have not yet subscribed to the Higher Ed Live newsletter, we really would love for you to do that. You get exclusive access to all kinds of offers, news before it's released to the general public, VIP invitations to different events, lots of freebies. And because it's the holiday season, we're super jazzed about that. And one lucky newsletter subscriber will win a gift of digital storytelling. We are actually giving away one subscription to M. Stoner's Digital Storytelling for Higher Education course. And so you can subscribe to the newsletter. That will immediately put you into the drawing, and we will tweet out a link. I just did it a little bit earlier on that Higher Ed Live hashtag. That is how to subscribe to our newsletter. I told my guests, I had a big long spiel at the beginning. The spiel has ended. It is now time to introduce you to the three folks who are really, in my opinion, Instagram super users at their respective institutions. And the first up is Ellen Depke. Ellen is a social media manager at Michigan State University, Go Spartans. She oversees the official university level accounts, and she has more than 1 million followers across all of those accounts, which is absolutely extraordinary. So she is a 2009 graduate of Central Michigan University and focuses on all social all the time for Michigan State University. So welcome, Ellen. Thank you. And next up, we have Tim Nekritz, who is my neighbor to the north, just an hour north of us, up at SUNY Oswego. He's Director of News and Media Services. He oversees a team of both professionals and students who really oversee all of the college's main social media accounts. He has a bachelor's from SUNY Brockport, his master's from SUNY Oswego. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you for not saying what year I graduated.
Well, I don't have what year you graduated because it wasn't on your LinkedIn profile.
I feel good knowing all you young people.
I love it. And finally, Aaron Sapinka. I didn't ask how to pronounce your name, so I hopefully got that right, Aaron.
You're all good.
Awesome. Erin is Assistant Director of Digital Engagement at Dartmouth College, and she works with the senior leadership in Dartmouth's Office of Communications. She is definitely the one who stood out as the Instagram power user of all power users in my search on Twitter, just talking about Insta all the time, and really some interesting insights into Instagram analytics. And I think that Instagram has really, thanks to demand from users, I would say, really taken strides in providing us with better analytics, especially as it pertains to Instagram stories, which are a big topic for today. Anyway, Erin is I'll say it, Tim, 2014 graduate of the Rochester Institute of Technology. So I am thrilled to have all three of you with us this afternoon. Like I said, great conversation ahead. We'll use the hashtag HigherEdLive for anything that any of you watching have to add. And I will start with getting right into it. And Tim, I don't know if this leads you to tell your lowest story or if it's something else, but let's start with each of you as you think back into how you've used Instagram. What is the one thing that sticks out, or maybe there's a few, of your best Instagram success stories? What really pops out to you as, man, that piece of content absolutely killed it? And Tim, I'll have you start.
Well, I'll start with our most recent, which was, we always do takeovers. We call them Laker takeovers. We are the Lakers, go Lakers. An idea that Meg Keniston, actually up in St. Lawrence, even further north of us, was one of the first I saw who did it really big time. So we had a graduating student named Dory who, a lot of school spirit, good photographer, and so we had her do a lot of posts, but the most popular post of that week, not surprisingly, involves one of our ladies who's worked in one of our dining halls for like 30 years, Lois Terminella. And so she posted the picture with Lois, and I was like, oh my God, I love Lois, and that type of thing. And we actually posted something on our Facebook page. We had a bio of her years ago. And basically everybody who's eaten in that dining hall in the last 30 years remembers her. And she's one of those people that they always all keep coming back to and saying, oh, I remember Lois, she was so great. She just made me smile. And just that person who really brightens your day. So I was glad she did that. But I think it kind of goes to something we don't always think about. We think about, we always want to show the academics. We want to show the scenics because that sunset photo always gets good likes. But there's some real people, real behind-the-scenes heroes, and I think it'd be great to have Lois do a Laker takeover at some point, and it'd probably destroy our Instagram account because we just go through the roof. But yeah, the unsung heroes on your campus, these are everyone remembers your professors and other people who helped out, but there's a lot of people we don't think of who have a huge impact on our students, and that was a great example right there of somebody who does. So I was very happy with the whole takeover, but that was something that stood out a little bit because it's some stuff we don't normally post.
That is awesome. I have a new glass door in my office, and one of my coworkers just came to the glass, and I see him looking at me like I'm like a fishbowl, and I can't look at him because we're on. So I apologize, Tim. Like, don't look at me. Okay. I love that Lois story, and I think that's such a good point that we get so excited about the cool, sunset over Krause for us. That's one of our buildings. But thinking about those unsung heroes in your classrooms and your dining halls, that really, that definitely resonates. Erin, how about you? As for what you've done for Dartmouth, or kind of what comes to mind as a success story for you on Insta?
Yeah. So for us, a big, thankfully, our goal of Instagram for us is highlighting our sense of place. And so Instagram really lines up with that. And so that's been something, increasingly figuring out ways to get away from just those typical campus shots with no people in them, because I've done data research previously where it was, they wouldn't do as well if you had a lot of people in it, and finding that people wanted to be able to picture themselves in the scenes and the situations, and if there was too much almost, I want to say personalization to it, you would lose the interest of people because they're like, oh, well, that doesn't feel like me, or I can't really see myself in that setting or situation. And so highlighting sense of place while still highlighting our sense of community, which is another huge piece that we use for Instagram for, has been an interesting challenge. And there's been a couple of times that we've really nailed it, and other times where we've just had to rely on the beautiful sunset or the Baker, our library tower shot whenever we're in a lull. And it's just like, oh, well, what do I do today? Well, we can always post Baker, and that'll get us some good likes. And then just really fast on what Tim said, I think 2018 is going to be the year of the staff and the unsung heroes. I think increasingly across campuses around the world and the country, people are really reflecting and understanding, like, that dining services worker has brightened my day and every day for the past 4 years. And those are the people. I went back for the first time to my alma mater to celebrate a retirement of my office manager for student government. I hadn't been back yet in the how many years now, 3 years since I graduated, and that was the first time I went back because it was her retirement party. So I'm excited to see how 2018 shapes up for us, really giving the tools and the resources to telling the stories of people that make the impacts behind the scenes. And I think Instagram is really a great place to follow it. So I think Tim should do a Lois takeover. That is my plug, and please do it. Thank you very much.
I love it. I love it. Ellen, how about you when it comes to the success stories that you've seen? I know you shared one of them on Twitter. This was how I caught you caught my attention, but what comes to mind for you?
Yeah, I think in addition to showing behind the scenes has worked really well for us. So this summer, a couple of people from our office, we took a road trip across the state of Michigan to show Michigan State's impact in 7 different cities, 3 weeks. And we pre-produced a lot of the content because we couldn't do all of that on the road. But we wanted it to feel like you were on the road with us. And so the best way for us to do that was through Instagram stories to give it that real-time feel. And so many people, even though we posted on Twitter and Facebook and all of the platforms, so many people were watching on Instagram stories and would message us each day and say, like, where are you next? Where's the next stop? I want to come meet up. So they were really enjoying watching that way.
That is awesome to be able to highlight your stories in that way. And kind of to what Erin said, you know, having those unsung heroes, now you can hear them, see them, like with Instagram and all of the enhancements that they've made, it just makes it such a cooler experience, I think, too. And I say the same goes for the stories that you did when you took Michigan State on the road, which is awesome. So, and we've kind of talked a little bit about this in answering the first question, but you know, Erin, I'll go to you because you're really my analytics girl when it comes to Instagram. Kind of, what did you put together your own sort of dashboard to see what was performing well? Take us through that, and if there's anything that you can share with the several dozen people who are watching us right now as to how those analytics came together.
Yeah, so while I love social for the good feelings and all of the warm moments that it creates, unfortunately, I can't always make them happen. And so it really came down to figuring out how these different pieces could fit into a mission that supports and goals that support our office's missions and the university's missions. And so ultimately what I ended up doing was I took both the college's mission statement and my office's mission statement and highlighted the different terms and the actionable pieces of data that stood out from them. And within those, I built out frameworks that I put into Excel spreadsheets and learned Excel in 2017, which was a great but very time-consuming and sometimes depressing task. I love Excel. It's just watching webinars on Excel it's not a really fun time. No. And so by building out this sheet, I'm able to directly correlate our Instagram posts to actual pieces that our office is trying to support for the overall college. And what has been really great is that once you create a template, all you have to do is input the data and it spits out a report for you. And so you can set up the frameworks to however you want to do it. For us, I'm even adding in for my year audit whether or not a post had an emoji in it. So then I'll just go through and hit yes or no, yes or no, yes or no. And then that'll auto-populate, okay, well, posts with emojis did X% better or worse than posts without, and going through and exploring the different types. And once you have that Excel template, that's really what allows me to quickly understand our analytics. And I do most of our analytics by hand, so having that template in place for all of our platforms has been huge. And it's also helped us identify some really interesting moments. And we talked just a little bit about the interactiveness that Instagram is slowly creating for digital storytelling. And it's really one of the only platforms currently that allows such an immersive experience without leaving the app too far. And so I say that meaning that you can go from the most beautiful or engaging picture that you put right on your feed permanently and telling people to see more of the story and behind the scenes right in the Instagram story that you have within the app. And then you can link out to related accounts if you want to. So if you're doing a story on dining services or we have an organic farm that we really like to talk about and show a lot of images from. And so connecting users directly to the organic farm Instagram account and sending them there as either the next step of the story, so kind of a choose your own journey type of thing, or just to make sure that people know that account is there and that while we might only post one photo of the farm a month, you can see photos every day from the farm there. to, if you have the ability to swipe up and add a link to a longer story or a longer video. And so that's been a really interesting opportunity with analytics, is being able to actually take a story that before we were just saying link in bio, and hoping that those 10 to 15 people that were really dedicated would end up there, unless it was a photo of the class, then everyone went to it. And it was like the biggest success in link in bio of the year. But now we're actually drastically seeing an increase in users ending up on our news site or our website in general because of the interactiveness of Instagram. And once you have them hooked, they're interested in learning more and moving on to the next step of that story. So that's been a really interesting insight from the analytics. And it all came from learning how to do Excel and setting up a series of 3 frameworks that allows me to align with what our office is doing day to day, so that I can prove, hey, I do need to go and spend a day at the organic farm shooting and filming alongside the photographer, the videographer, because it creates X% of click-through rate over just doing a link in bio to the story.
Love it. Ellen, anything to add on your end in terms of what you're looking at for analytics? I know there are probably folks watching who are relatively new to the social media management game, who may not know that you can tie your business account, your whatever it is, your school account, your alumni account, by creating it as a business profile. That's how you get analytics. I know I've heard from several who didn't know that was doable, but you can have full analytics on Instagram just by setting it up as a business profile and tying it to a profile on Facebook. So that is a little tip for folks who may not have picked up on that just yet. But Ellen, anything to add on your front from an analytics standpoint?
Yeah, so analytics is kind of how we decided to focus more on Instagram stories. We were on Instagram stories and Snapchat, and we were getting like 5 times the engagement on Instagram stories. So we decided we have to focus more on this. This is where we're seeing people really engage. So I love that Erin talked about looking at not just things like reach or impressions, likes, looking at, what the post says, the tone, the emojis. I think those are all important things to look at.
Mm-hmm. As we get a question from, yay, I love when people chime in on the hashtag, Jason Waterfalls. That is an amazing last name. Jason Waterfalls, who looks dashingly like an actor that I'm a huge fan of. That's clearly not you, Jason, on your Twitter bio. That looks awfully a lot like The Notebook. Anyway, he's asking, after you've made a post, and we'll start with Tim on this, how do you deem whether that post is successful? What defines success on Instagram?
Yeah. Well, the problem is, and certainly what everyone's doing with data is amazing, but data is not a be-all, end-all. I think about the argument that's happening like in baseball now. You've got the sabermetrics crowd that can tell you the batter did this with 2 strikes and a runner on third and that type of thing. But then there's also the scouting, the old-fashioned knowing what a good story is. So there's a little bit of everything. Obviously, I'm not nearly as sophisticated as these other people are, but I'll see like a lot of engagement, a lot of plays and that type of thing, and that'll be good. But if it's just candy, is it just people are, oh, look, a sunset, I'm going to click that, as opposed to something that actually is helpful? I can put a photo up of therapy dogs on campus. I know that's not only cute because animals run the internet, but I know for a fact that's going to get people out there and people showing up. So we've done a lot more what I would call news value. Instagram, which isn't always easy because the link, it's a little complicated with the link in there, and Instagram's helped that out. But I see Instagram sometimes as an extension of our news operation because I oversee news and social media. Maybe that's selfish, I don't know. But I've put more news stories in there and things that, for me, maybe the clicks aren't there, but the comments might be really good, or I'll see like a bump in our followers and that type of thing. So I can't necessarily say, oh, this was a successful post because it got 400, 500 likes. That definitely is a successful post, but things that have some real resonance to them and things that actually can get people to take an action, that's what I consider successful, and that's why some of the stuff I post doesn't get the most likes. We'll do profiles. My intern Kevin, shout out to Kevin wherever you are right now, started doing something with all the Oswego orgs, calling it #OzOrgs, where he would profile one organization a week, and those do not necessarily get the most likes. But we're looking at constructing a bigger infrastructure here, where if you are interested in SUNY Oswego, our whole idea is you can get involved with X and Y and Z, and we've got more than 200 organizations, and here are things that people do, and here are people who go on alternate winter break and summer break. So for me, it's really looking at a bigger picture. That this I realize is not at all what you really probably want to know this answer, but I think analytics is great, but it's really only part. Like really good engagement or really good numbers can be good, but I would trade 100 likes for 2 or 3 people who actually take an action from it.
I totally agree. I think the context is so important. We could post a picture of like campus that's just really pretty and it'll get a ton of likes, but it doesn't mean necessarily as much as a really brand aligned post for us. So
yeah, similar here. Again, the providing of context and in my reports, I always hate just doing numbers, because I do a high-low of here's our top engaging post, and then I make sure to always pull up the tweets that I may have been only sending directly to 1 or 2 users, congratulating them on their acceptance or pointing them in the right direction for a resource. Or during the 3rd quarter last year, there was a student who had a friend pass away at another school, and so when we saw that on Instagram, we DM'd them and sent them links to the counseling services available on campus. And so that takes time and energy, and you only get 1 click from that because it's going directly and privately to a student on campus. But that's one of the more successful posts because you actually directed and reached out and made a connection to a student. So it's always hard for me to quantify what the return on investment is for certain things, but in numbers wise, we always look to be creating engagement on that next step. So if that's a beautiful picture of the library, but it directs them to, the alumni database that they can access as an alum, what was the click-through rate on that? Did we actually get people to either sign up, register, just go to the website to learn more? And so I always like to look past that first, oh yes, we did 10% higher on this engagement right there, but then, okay, what's the click-through rate? Did we drive people to another account? Did that library account get a spike in followers? So I always look at that next step. And sometimes it is just reach and awareness. And so if you put up a picture just to say, look at this really pretty sunset, and it does really well, I take it for what it is and say it was successful because I wanted to highlight a beautiful sunset on campus, and we did that.
Yay! How about, and this is, this is a curveball that I'm throwing, but I think it'll be an easy one for you guys. Why do you think that Instagram Stories has taken off the way it has, and Facebook Stories just kind of womp womp? They just didn't really do. So I always see, how Facebook tries to make you think that your friend has created a story, but no, just kidding. It's actually blurred out. They didn't do it, but they're trying to make you think that your cool friend did do it. Why do you think, Tim, that Instagram has gone, crazy with stories, a lot of success, but Facebook just kind of, or maybe you think that Facebook Stories has taken off and I'm just wrong. So what do you think?
I have never clicked a Facebook story. Again, small sample size, but for me, I think I go to Instagram for visual storytelling anyway. Facebook is, a mess. I won't talk about those of you who have relatives who have interesting political views and all the rest of that stuff. But for Instagram, it's so simple and almost feel good. It's if a Instagram story just makes sense. It's from a use case. Yeah, it's a visual story being told in a visual medium. And I think Facebook, as always, is jumping in on something that Facebook is trying to do everything. This was almost like perfect for Instagram.
Love it.
For a long time.
It was almost as perfect as Twitter owning Instagram. That never happened. The sale that never happened that should have.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Ellen, what were you saying?
I was just going to say, for a long time, I really loved Twitter, and it was my personal favorite network. But with Instagram Stories, I find myself on there all the time, just watching and watching. And I think Tim's exactly right that it's just because it's a visual platform.
Yeah. For the why it's taken off Instagram and not necessarily Facebook for me, I think because Facebook, even though we all have those friends that are not super polished or only sharing things on there that are job updates, baby updates, silly things, it really isn't the platform anymore, in my humble opinion, where we post updates that are not minute to minute, but more frequent. And so what's been interesting to me is Instagram has always been kind of that platform that people showed off what their life looked like what it actually looked like, whether it was an Instagram that they took and then a picture they took and then they edited it in a secondary, third, fourth app, however many times they needed to get it. But it was still a look at, here's what my life visually looks like. And with Instagram stories, it lets you tell more of what your life looks like visually without messing up your feed and without, because I always thought about that as like, we took 200 beautiful photos at homecoming, and yet I can only pick one to share on Instagram. That just felt so wrong. But we knew that we could only share maybe 3 before we saturated people with homecoming content, because we would realize, they probably follow a bunch of people that were also at homecoming. And so seeing homecoming, you saturate your feed. With Instagram stories, it gives you that opportunity to tell more stories like that. And I just think it's really taken off. Plus, Instagram actually listened to brands, whereas Snapchat is trying to save face now and giving features that we've been asking for how many years? 3-4 years Snapchat was around and brands were heavily using before Instagram stories came out.
Oh, and also Instagram, the first time I used it, I'm like, oh, there's 5 buttons. I understand what they all do. I try to have my students run Snapchat because I really don't. I have no idea what I'm doing. I was at a session at High Ed Web, and Lori Packer from the University of Rochester was explaining. I'm like, oh, I had no idea. Wait, there are stickers, that type of thing. But and that's part of the fun of it. And it really is. Snapchat's much more of a fun medium, but Instagram, I think, the simplicity of it is what hooked and got people, and also the fact that what you're seeing there is mostly pleasant. And in 2017, that's not a bad thing to have.
I think too, Instagram is so public and it's not strange for you to be following strangers, where on Facebook it's really like high school friends and family. So using stories just doesn't feel right. It just feels off.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I was going to say, when Erin was talking, I have a former colleague who's moved on to another organization who you can tell when she remembers that she has Instagram, because there are like 15 photos from her, one after the other, and it's like, oh my God, this is not how you use Instagram. You just want to yell or go use stories. But I just think that that's interesting. As you think about, the 3 things that were really new in the last couple weeks with Instagram: the stories archive. So all that great content that you've created in the past, it was bye-bye. Now you have an archive of your content. Stories highlights, which are allowing brands to put, the best of the best stories at the very top of the profile, and then following hashtags. As you look at those 3 things, what are you, and Ellen, we'll start with you, what are you most excited about in terms of, the opportunity for Michigan State? Where do you even start when you think about your audience, alumni, prospective students, current students? Like, what do you put in that stories highlight, or what types of hashtags do you use, and how do you tell your users to follow those hashtags so they see Michigan State's content? And I know I asked roughly 15 questions in that one question, so I'll stop there. What do you think about the new tools?
I am most excited about highlights. I think that's so cool, and that definitely gives them a little bit of an edge over Snapchat. I know that you can kind of put anything on Snapchat now, but it doesn't have the same look and feel as Instagram stories. So I'm excited for people to be able to go to our profile and see some sort of content in the highlight reels that we want them to see, that maybe they have missed for some reason. So we already have a highlights reel up. We'll keep adding to it bits and pieces to kind of give everyone, I think, an overall look and feel of what is Michigan State like, what does it mean to be a Spartan. So I'm excited just in the new year to keep adding to that and kind of experimenting with it.
Awesome. How about you, Erin? What are you thinking?
So I'm just stoked about the hashtags. I know it seems like a simple fix, but with my data management, having one less step to worry about clicking through and remembering, okay, now I check this hashtag and I engage with this hashtag. Okay, like we had early decisions just the other day, and being able to follow all the different variations of the class hashtag just simplified my feed so much more. Although the one thing that I did realize is that I'm not following people as much as I had been in the past, because I forget that I don't follow them, that they just use the hashtag doesn't necessarily mean that I follow them. And I like to follow back from the main account just because it keeps them in my feed, and, you know, a little bit of love goes a long way. And then also, additionally, the highlights. I wish it would have rolled out sooner, because we're working on that 2017 highlight reel for all of our channels. And would it have not been great to be able to put together a really cool highlight of archives right on our Instagram?
It's been fishbowl and now my phone's ringing. I'm really sorry, guys. New office problems. Haven't figured out how to mute my new phone.
Hashtag
Close my door. Yeah, no, I think
that's what I wished for. It always rolls out just like either in the nick of time or just late enough where you're like, oh, this would have been so great 2 weeks ago.
Yep, exactly. Tim, how about you with what's new or something that's old that you're jazzed about?
Why do you say old when you look at me like that? No, definitely for me, the hashtags have been overdue, because for me, a lot of social media is really about community and conversations, and being able to get that in one part, whether it's a commencement or a big sporting event or whatever it is. I'm happy to have that connection, especially when you look at the fact that Storify is going away. Yay. And so trying to find more ways that you can capture and curate and do things with specific hashtags, because the hashtags in Twitter, generally speaking, have become a little bit more of a mess. Anytime you're at a conference that trends, suddenly, hey, look, we've got spam all over the hashtag now. That's great. I think the simplicity of Instagram with the hashtags is going to be really good, and especially since nobody knows what to call us anyway, like SUNY Oswego, Oswego State. It's good to be able to check hashtags quickly, or hashtag Just Oswego or hashtag OSU, even though that's really Ohio State. But for us, I do look forward to delving in there more, because that's a great place to be interactive and pick up new followers, but moreover make them really part of your community and your stories.
Awesome. So as you look ahead in your crystal ball, and Aaron, you just touched on it with something that you're hoping for. What do you think is, or I guess, if you could sit down with the Instagram developers, what is on your wish list for 2018 or beyond, as you see what they've done? And I know the developers are going to be like, Kim, zip it. Like, we just came out with all this new stuff, so stop. But what do you think is on the horizon, or do you hope is on the horizon?
For me, I hope increasing engagement options, just like the poll thing. I know it was one of those things that you were like, oh, why did anyone ask for this? But then when you got to play around with it and use it, it actually has provided some really awesome opportunities to just get glimpses into what your user base is interested in. And again, like, I can see that people love photos of Baker, but what season do they like? And what's their favorite way to engage with this content? And so I'd really like to see more than just 2 options for polls, maybe a 4. Boston University is doing a lot of cool stuff with like little brackets and competitions between what's your favorite holiday movie. And it's just a cool way to engage your audience. Yeah. And so I really want to see more engagements. I'm not sure what that could be, because I didn't even know I wanted polls until they came out. More poll options is definitely one of them, but also just continually giving me ways to connect with other accounts and kind of create a more immersive experience right in the Instagram platform, because generally we see people staying there and not wanting to hop out too many times or too far past that one app.
I'll go to Ellen and Tim with their wish list in a minute, but first, have you used much with Instagram Live, and how do you see that compares when you go live on Instagram versus live on Twitter, if anybody ever does Periscope anymore, versus live on Facebook Live? How do you see? I really shouldn't make my opinion so known on this broadcast, right? How do you see that? Your thoughts on those 3 different channels and live, and where you focus. If you've got one phone for your team, where do you focus your efforts?
I focus on Instagram Live. I really do. I mean, I love Facebook, but with just because I feel like Facebook is definitely a more polished platform, at least for us. It's hard to just hop on very quickly and do a live broadcast. So it's easier for me to put up the polished video, and then people can tune in and see it live, or see it live later and just catch it that way. But Instagram Live has been a blast, just because I have the phone, and it's a target audience that we're not really reaching a lot of other places as socially. So Facebook, I see that they're interacting and on our page, but they're not necessarily having a conversation with us. And in Twitter, they're more putting their content out there, stream of conscious, not always looking for the university to step in and respond to them. But on Instagram, they're actively starting a two-way conversation with me. And so Instagram Live is where I've been dedicating a lot of our resources when I have one phone. I mean, Instagram stories totally bumped Snapchat out of the list of contenders for us, and just that two-way conversation with the target audience I'm not reaching anywhere else as successfully is pretty key for us here.
Oh. Ellen, let's go first to your Instagram wish list as you really dive into using it at Michigan State. What are you thinking might be a good addition for 2018?
I kind of agree with Erin, where it's probably something that I don't know that I need in life, but really and will be really excited about. I love that we've talked about this already, that you can stay really in Instagram stories, and you can go to other websites or things or accounts, but you're still in the environment, which is really cool. So I'll be excited to see how else they can kind of engage people but keep them there. We haven't done a ton of Instagram stories. We tend to do Facebook Live, we don't do a lot of Instagram Live, but we do Facebook Live because we have about 500,000 followers there. So it's just a bigger audience. So I am excited to try out Instagram Live a little bit more this year. I think it could be really cool and valuable to see how the audience interaction is different there than it is on Facebook.
It's so hard when you're like, want to type on that, right?
Yeah. It's definitely a little bit easier, I think, on Instagram Live to interact with people.
Awesome. Tim, how about you? Your wish list for Insta, and Sandra down in New York City is loving on the GIFs today. She's a big fan of your everything you're saying. And Sandra likes to following the hashtag as well. I love when people are active on our hashtag. So Tim, what are you thinking? What's your Insta wish list?
Well, first of all, the main thing I want from Instagram is I want chronological back, but that's probably not going to happen for us. The thing about Instagram, and maybe I'm simple, is that I kind of like it the way it is. The live is a good thing. I'm going to have one of my students, hopefully one who has an unlimited data plan, test that out in the spring, I'm sure. Because I drink too much coffee, I shake too much, I would make people sick. But I think that really looking at different ways and different dimensions of telling story, and I think Instagram Live is going to be a great one. I do want to mention one of the things that we've been doing a lot more. I'm going to plug High Ed Web again, just because I'm paid, I think, to do it. There is a gentleman by the name of Andrew Castle from the University of Alaska Fairbanks, which is a huge research university. And I'm going to post a link to his Instagram, which is UA Fairbanks. And they do a lot of really cool stuff with research there. We always think about, oh, hey, let's do all this, feel-good stuff and that type of thing. And he does some great stuff. Well, first of all, it's Alaska. There's, beautiful landscapes behind it. But he's doing a lot of research stories and showing people in the field working. And I've been trying a little bit more, a story that normally would have been like a newsletter story about students presenting at a conference in, I think it was Spain, and we got a whole bunch of really cool pictures, and I said, hey, let's turn this into an Instagram story. We're trying to think of it as a different news outlet, because one thing that drives me crazy is the people who put something on Instagram, then punch it out to Twitter and to Facebook, the same thing over and over, because I look at it as different. As Erin alluded to, the great thing about Instagram, especially if you're in enrollment management, is that it really does it has a great audience for you or for your current students, first-year students, and that type of thing. But I'm starting to see the ability to tell stories beyond the average stories. So the everyday stories, this student is doing a cool thing, but like research stories and things that have an actual impact, that whether you're a young alum, who a lot of our young alums are on Instagram, or a prospective student say, wow, this school is really doing some cool stuff and it's impacting the world in a positive way. That's something that, according to research, air quotes, students are looking for right now when they're searching out colleges. They want colleges that do something in the public good. And I'll post that up. But he's a way better photographer than I am, among other things. But the idea to really tell stories with a little more depth than just, oh, here's this really cool thing that happened on campus. Here's something that is changing lives. I'm hoping that that's the direction Instagram starts going in more.
Something else that...
Go ahead.
Something else that we're excited to try, Erin had mentioned kind of doing yearly recaps. So each year we do a year in review video, kind of taking you through the best moments at MSU. And it's always one of the best pieces of content, the most engaged audience for that. And so it's always video, but this year we're actually going to break it down and put pre-produced, very polished video in Instagram stories and have people swipe up to see the full video. So I'm excited to do more of that and see how our audience reacts and engages with that sort of more polished feel.
I'm typing.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in addition to University Fairbanks, University of Buffalo has been doing some really great stuff with research stories, and that's the one thing that I've been really big on in 2017 with the Instagram stories is you can use pre-polished content. They just removed the 24-hour limit, so it doesn't have to be in the moment content. It can be things that you're collecting over time. So I've been collecting images of students studying abroad or interning in all of these really cool places. And each time I see someone wearing a Dartmouth swag in front of the Great Wall of China or wherever, I'm saving it because I want to put together this where in the world or look where Dartmouth can take you type of Instagram story. And that's something that's so incredibly useful. When you do have a news story or a big announcement coming, there's usually other content that's being created for it. So if it's a polished video for YouTube or it's an interview that's being shot, what pieces of it can you take and edit it out and create into its own living, breathing thing on Instagram that you can create that interactive experience and get the story across to an audience that may not be navigating to your news site on its own. And so that's something that I always like to remind people about Instagram stories is that opportunity to take stuff that you've already done, repurpose it, and then be able to get more life out of that graduation recap video or the 7 stories you wrote about the incoming class and giving it more life to breathe. And your news team will be excited because you're getting more clicks to the website, and it may not be the traditional method, but some more eyeballs is good things for us. So I love Instagram story for that, and I hope that they continue to help us with that. I know they want that live and like gritty behind the scenes look, but it's for universities and brands, it's been really, really, really a great tool to repurpose content that might live elsewhere.
Yeah, I'll go in on that too. It just never occurred to me until just going to that session that there's so much that can be repurposed out there. Like Erin was talking about, and we all know, hey, here's a really cool piece of content that we just sent to a newsletter that like 12 people opened. But there's a great story behind there. You can tell simply with that visual and reach a much larger audience and have a real impact. So that's one of my New Year's resolutions as well.
You got a big list forming there, Tim.
Yeah, I know.
How about how each of you use students in terms of executing your Instagram strategy? And I know in just chatting with you before the episode started, your degrees of utilizing students are very different. And some schools feel very strongly about having students have the keys to their accounts. Other schools feel that there's a bit more, of a protection that's needed on accounts that have hundreds of thousands of followers. So, Ellen, I'll start with you in terms of, I believe students are more of the content generators, and then you're actually doing the posting. Can you elaborate on students?
Yeah, so we were very comfortable with giving the keys over to Snapchat because for a long time there was no other choice. It's nice with Instagram stories that you don't have to give the password out. They can kind of create it on their own account, send you the files, and you can upload it. I was so happy the day that they announced the 24-hour time limit went away forever. That was awesome. So a lot of them for us, yeah, they will create the content, do a lot of brainstorming. We have an intern right now who does graphic design, and he's really passionate about Instagram in particular. So he's done a lot of stories for us, taking kind of art and photography and combining the two, which has been cool, doing a lot of GIFs and video type things for Instagram. I know you can't do technically a GIF, but a video file of a GIF essentially. So he's been doing some of those things for us, and people seem to really like it. So I hope to do more in the new year of that as well.
Awesome. Tim, any thoughts on your end?
Oh, yeah, I've been using, that sounds so bad. I've been having students who have been very involved in our Instagram for a long time. My social media team has generally between 3 and 8. I tried 12 one time, that was a mistake. But they might do a number of activities. I've usually had 2 or 3 who are pretty focused on Instagram, and I want them to have maybe different backgrounds as far as what they're featuring. Like I said, Kevin was the involvement intern talking about student involvement. I had Anna, who's in theater and arts and covered a lot of that. I have Camry, who's an awesome photographer. She does all the really good nature shots and that type of thing. So I have a few students who are involved in the Instagram mix, but there's also a weekly meeting there with the social media team. Okay, what are the important things we need to cover this week? You know, are there going to be animals on campus? You know, is usually question number one. But you know, but rotating that around too, because I spend way too much time in. My students manage to get out a lot more, and again, our audience is in large part prospective students, current students, young alums, and they want that perspective of that person who's out there doing things. So the more, it's always good when they're contributing. You know, obviously we try to make sure that they don't post right on top of each other, or 2 people at the same event posting almost the exact same photo. But so that's part of the coordination thing. But I've been, one of the things that I always say about blogging, and it applies to Instagram, is we don't approve posts, we approve students. And then that's part of the takeovers too, is you know, knowing who they are and not giving that to a random person. Someone always has to vouch for them. But then letting them go, you know, just letting them be themselves and show their lives. The less we interfere, the better.
It's so interesting to me. Often I will have to tell students, like, have more fun, please. I think they sometimes get nervous about taking over the official account and think it needs to be like too professional or too proper, and they kind of lose some of that magic. So I try to remind them, like, it's okay to like use an emoji. That's fine.
Awesome. There's new emojis. I finally updated my phone and got the orange heart. Finally. Erin, how do you use students?
So a lot of our content is user generated. I work with student interns every so often. We'll have an intern that works in my office, but most of the content is either generated by me, located by me. But I love students. I think I actually met Tim when I was a content creator at RIT. So I came from a social media student team that Ashley, then Hennigan, now Bud at Cornell, had created in the admissions office. And so student content creators has always been a very, very warm spot for me. I think it's an awesome opportunity. We just haven't, I'm a one-person team. And so if there's a team of interns, I'm also managing them. And so I'll have one every once in a while, and we use a lot of user-generated content, and their stuff is always so much better than mine that it hurts a lot sometimes. but for the most part, I mean, they're the greatest. They know what they want. They know what they want to see. So I always trust their guts. I call them my gut checks. Even the students that may no longer be working for me, I'll text them and say, "Is this stupid?" And they're very kind when they say, "Yes, let's try this."
Yes.
And plus, they're raising the future Aarons of the world as well. When you have interns.
That is true.
Yes.
So as we look, I can't even believe that it's 1:47 right now. Amazing. Thank you so much for all of this really just cool conversation about Insta. As we look to wrap it up, is there anything that I've missed, and anything that, you know, you're thinking about, a success story that we haven't touched on, you know, a metric that you're looking at you think is super important for folks who might just be dipping a toe into Instagram or really trying to enhance their Instagram game? First, that question, and then I'll give my final wrap up question. So anything on your end, Ellen?
I think just now we're talking about takeovers a little bit. It made me think about the process of how we do takeovers. Tim said, you know, you have to get them. Someone has to say, like, okay, this is a legitimate student who will be good and who will do okay. But I think there's a lot more planning in it than people who maybe don't work in social media realize. So we try to make sure that we have some sort of a storyboard, an idea of kind of what they're going to say, but try not to be too rigid. So that's something that I think people don't always realize with Instagram, especially.
I think that's important. I want to jump before we go to what we might have missed. There is a great question that came in from, I don't even know that I know how to pronounce that, Azusa Pacific University at APU alumni. They're wondering, how do you promote your well-used hashtag for your school? I assume that means it's been used frequently when it's also being used by another school. do we start using a new hashtag? My immediate answer is yes, go to a new hashtag so that you don't have double content. That happens often with Salisbury University and Susquehanna University and all the SUs. So would any of you disagree with going to a different hashtag?
Not at all. We our big hockey game against Plattsburgh, which usually one of those teams is always going to the NCAAs or both. We changed it to the whiteout game a few years ago. There was a previous tradition that involved people throwing bagels and tennis balls, but I won't get into it right now. But so originally people were looking at, hey, how about hashtag whiteout? Let's use that. And I checked, and the University of Arizona had a football game that was called the whiteout at the same time. And like, okay, no one's going to see our tweets. So I said, how about Oz whiteout? And so a lot of people refer to Oswego as Oz for short. And it's something we've used more and the institution used more. So just connecting the institution in some way is good. Because if I had, and I'll see people who will ignore that sometimes, and they'll put in something with no identifier, and then their tweets are lost. So I think a bit of customization is good. And again, if it can kind of lend a little bit more of distinctiveness to what you're posting, that's good too.
We have that, or had that battle sort of with MSU. That's Missouri State, all kinds of different universities. And I didn't go to Michigan State. So when I first started working here and I was going through the MSU hashtag, I would be like, that's an amazing photo of campus. I can't wait to share it. And it was like, no, that's in Russia. That's Moscow State. Big difference. So we tend to use Spartansville because that is really our hashtag. We're able to own that. That's our brand tagline. So yeah, I would agree with going with a different hashtag.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat. I was just going to say, unless they've just recently started using it, it sometimes can be worth a conversation to say, hey, like, we love this one. We've been using it for a while, but if it's something you've both been battling over for a while, it totally would be worth it to find that slight customization that would allow you to tap it completely. And just, again, for yourself, Ellen kind of hinted at it so that you know what is your content versus no, wrong school.
Aaron, a question came in for you from Sandra in New York City, but I think it might have been Tim who mentioned it about the university that's, she said, investing research stories on Insta. I think, Tim, you were talking about
University of Buffalo.
UB? Okay.
Yeah, University of Buffalo and then University of Fairbanks, I think, Tim, is what
Alaska
you said?
Fairbanks, yeah. I posted a link to the Alaska Fairbanks, but Buffalo might be the other one.
Okay, awesome.
All that upstate New York stuff happening, you know?
That's right. Aaron, you think, has there anything that you think we missed?
I was just going to say the one thing that just rolled out to our accounts late last week and has finally kind of populated correctly is, I know it might be hard to see, but new stats on the analytics. Right. So if you go to each post, you can see profile visits, follows, discovery stats, and then impressions from where they came from. So from home, explore, from profile or other. And so it just, again, gives you more context of where people are coming to your account, how you're actually pushing them to your account, which for people that do use link in bio, this is going to be really exciting for me because I do want to see, when I do a link in bio story, does that profile visits number go up? How do I influence that at all? And then also the discovery one I'm super excited about because we've built out a list of hashtags that are related to our goals and strategic messaging, however, are not branded Dartmouth. So it's not Dartmouth Get Outside, but it's a series of hashtags that appeal to a larger general community on Instagram. And I'm really excited to test them out. So not necessarily things like hashtag latergram, but maybe something like hashtag Get Outside NH, which is Get Outside New Hampshire. And so testing those to see how that influences that discovery statistic and then ultimately how people are engaging with our content there.
Cool.
That's what I'm super excited about.
Anything we missed from you, Tim?
Well, I mentioned it a little bit, but the idea, again, of Instagram as a destination and its own channel, not just we're going to put this content everywhere. And that's what we've really had a lot of our success with. There's things that I want to post everywhere. Like if someone goes to our Instagram account right now, SUNY Oswego, they will see a student who did a backflip during commencement. He's a parkour instructor as well as a summa cum laude. He's got a great job in San Francisco, which all of that ties in to that post. But it's something like Facebook, it gets buried on Facebook. Instagram highlight, and Twitter does pretty well on Twitter, but thinking of specific things that are almost Instagram exclusive, so that people can say, well, I can see these things anywhere, but I'm going to go to Oswego's Instagram because there's this Laker takeover. There are these really cool research stories and things they can't find anywhere else. Again, kind of going back to the TV model of, this is exclusive to this station or whatever, as opposed to trying to put it out everywhere. That's definitely something that is front of mind too. We're doing it a little bit. I'd like to, there you go, Kim. There's my wish list for my 2018, and there's yet another New Year's resolution.
Love it. All right. Well, as we close, real quickly, the accounts that all of you, when you wake up in the morning, and maybe you don't do this, and you hold your phone over your head and you scroll through and you see what's going on Instagram, what are the accounts that you look to for that inspiration? I know, Tim, you mentioned it with the account in Alaska. Are there any that, as we look to build out our Instagram strategy, that you're like, boom, watch this, doesn't have to be higher education, but who's really killing it on Insta? Other than Oswego and Michigan State and Dartmouth.
For me, I actually follow a lot of lifestyle brands also. So thinking about the lifestyle bloggers that are very popular right now, and I can't think of any right off the top of my head, but those have been a really, I want to say Joanna Gaines and Magnolia Farms, because I'm a really big Fix Rapper fan.
Yep.
But the just even down to how they're spacing their words, just to create something that looks a little bit more, not the same text and font colors that everyone else has access to, is amazing. And then it lends itself to a really popular demographic on Instagram. And so it's just, I like following those different lifestyles, from everything from kind of the mommy blogger all the way to the grungy, outdoorsy, artistic Instagram accounts. I'll have to find a few of my favorite and tweet it out later. But I like to expand past just the brands, because these individual users and influencers have hundreds and thousands of followers, because their aesthetic and their mastery of the platform is so great. And so I like to find the little nuggets that I can take and apply to our own account.
Well, Ellen, how about you?
Bloggers are killing it on Instagram. There's so many that I follow, and luckily, like I said, Instagram is not weird for me to be following them, so that's nice. But I also really love Refinery29 everywhere on social, but also on Instagram. I think they do a great job of just having really great bite-sized content, where it's like just a graphic here, and then on their Instagram stories, I think they really embrace all of the different features. They're not afraid to throw in an emoji. So I think they do a really great job. So I love them. I also love something very local, Bon 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 Chocolates. It's a chocolate store owned by a Michigan State grad, but their brand is basically like Willy Wonka meets girl power. And they just have awesome Instagram stories where they take you behind the scenes and show you how the chocolate is made, but in a really fascinating, visually appealing way. So I love them too.
Cool. And how about you? Tim?
Well, one of the ones I really like, it's not higher ed, but it's very, very good with branding, which is Radio Flyer, the makers of the Little Red Wagon. So it's Radio Flyer Inc. And I keep trying to win things there for my kid, not for me, probably not for me. But they do contests there, but they do a lot of user generated stuff. And it's just really showing, it's a timeless brand, but they really do a great job of people seeing themselves or their kids and connecting to it, and just really working off the nostalgia angle, and everything is beautifully shot too. So that's an example of one outside of higher ed that I'm a big fan of, just because of their that great content strategy, and also the execution of it is top notch.
Love it. What an amazing 58 minutes of all Instagram, end of the year, total sharing of what you've done that's been successful. I can't thank you guys enough, to M. Stoner for making the show possible, and really to the three of you for sharing your super love of Instagram and what you've been able to accomplish with the platform. It's really inspiring. And to everybody who asked a question or chimed in on the Higher Ed Live hashtag, it was really cool. So thank you to Ellen, to Aaron, and to Tim. And we wish all of you a wonderful holiday season and a very happy 2018 of all Instagram all the time.
There you go.